Yo, yo, yo. Alrighty. Don't I follow Mello? Could have sworn I did. How do I not follow Mello? That's weird. Okay. Well, followed just like that. Okay. Got that. How's it going, people? Or should I say person? I think there's one person in the chat right now. I say this at the beginning of every live stream, but I don't plan on this being a long stream. So we'll see in a couple hours if that was true or not. Anyway, let's delete this thing. Alrighty. So I see there's a few more of us in the chat. I do want to ask, if feel free to answer. Should I talk about the theory first, or should we start talking about the leaks first? I don't think it really matters the order, but you know, if you guys are here for a certain thing, I'll get get you in and out of here for the thing you're more interested in, of course. But I have a theory that I've already recorded. I just need to edit, and I was just waiting on my thumbnail to be made so I can have it just all put together. And since I'm not in like a super big rush, I have to edit, and I still have schoolwork and stuff. I realized like at last minute that I had a class that started on Monday, but or this last Monday that just passed. So I'm a little bit more busy than I expected to be this week. But yeah, anyway, I made the video. I just have to edit it, and since it's going to take longer than I expected, I'm going to be sharing it during this stream. So it's up to you guys whether you want it to be right off rip or after we talk about the leaks. Joshua says leaks first. I'm down with that. Zaldonic 2:30 at night with me, so I don't stay long. Oh, you want to talk about leaks too? Zaldonic's cool. All right, so looks like we're going to do the leaks first. You guys don't care about what I gotta say. That's fine. That's all right. I'm not hurt by that. Just kidding. Anyway, okay, so let's just go straight to the leaks then. It is 3:30 in Zaldonics' time, so we gotta respect the time zones here. And then right after this, we'll probably just get into the theory. All right, so it says Unit delivers a blow with all his might, and Lucius looks like he's fallen. So this is, man, imagine the the kind of letdown that's happening for though, because we of course know that Lucius is not defeated here, but look that his grimoire is like disintegrating in everything. In his heart and head knows, like, I had this dude, and all of a sudden he's just behind him. But man, that's crazy. You're looking at the guy who's spent all this trouble, trying to kill the entire nation, and you think you got him, and this is the most convincing blow. I mean, geez, he messed him up. He Xenoned him, is what he did. And then you're looking down on him, victorious and stuff. I won, but nope, Lucius is right there. So this is really cool. I wish, I don't know, and I it could be my fault, but I wasn't online when the leaks were dropping initially, and I wish that we saw this in order, at least that I saw this in order, because I saw just Lucius doing this first, and I was like, okay, well, something's going on, but I didn't get to see that he actually went through the whole process, like, saw him defeat this body, and all of a sudden he's right behind him. But that's demoralizing to say the least. So then another exchange, and just trying to figure it out. He's saying it's not a hallucination, that has to be the body of Lucius, but then how is this one? And so What's he doing with his arm there? It's like gone. I wonder if that's just like the way the scan came out. That's really weird. But then, yeah, Yuno's looking as shook as he's supposed to look. I mean, what do you do? And then, such that I can even create clones myself. What did he say? Did I miss something? Oh, yes, I did. I'm not reading it the manga way. All right. So they're saying, what is that? The town. Right now, I possess soul, body, blood, and bone magic. That we predicted a long ass time ago. We knew he'd have all of that. Such that I can even create clones of myself. So this is something that we really were like looking forward to someone like Dante doing, but he never did. So the clone thing happening now is crazy, because we know that's about to change the game up really big. Even though you are beyond my foresight's reach, my plan is still in place. This land will become this the seedbed that will make way for a new beginning. So I would like to know why it has to be the Clover Kingdom. And if I had to put my thoughts on it right here now, I'd say it had something to do with it having the Shadow Palace in it. The Clover Kingdom is quite literally covering something up here. And I have some more thoughts on it. I'll save it for the end of the leaks here. But if I had to guess, it does have something to do with stuff like that. And we do know that the Clover Kingdom, like I was talking about earlier on Twitter, the Clover Kingdom just has been sketchy from chapter 1 to current. And I think Lolo ends up giving us more game than we took credit for. She tells us that mages usually have magic that connect back to water, fire, wind, and earth magic. And then they'll have some offshoots, but they still stem back to those elements. But then you have arcane mages, and I think we've only had arcane mages in the Clover Kingdom in clusters. There might be some arcane mages here and there, but in clusters they're happening in the Clover Kingdom. And, lest not we forget, the Clover Kingdom is responsible for the genocide of the elves and stealing their magic all those years ago. So there's definitely something up, and when it comes to this movie of Black Clover that's happening, Buzzard was telling me that in one of the trailers, the people that are with Conrad are saying, or Conrad's telling us to stop believing in Wizard Kings. And he's actively trying to take down the Clover Kingdom. Like, why is that a thing? And right now, it doesn't seem like Conrad is actually the bad guy. It seems like he's noticed that the Clover Kingdom as a whole is an issue. And he's not the only Wizard King to think that, apparently. So, something's up. And, just the fact that the Wizard King up until chapter 331 was, until stated otherwise, Osteroth, this place is not to be trusted at all. And we have people with one-of-a-kind magic here, and for the most part, or the only thing we have seen, is that people with this one-of-a-kind magic end up linked to devils. So it's hard to say that, someone like Conrad in this movie is going to be completely in the wrong. Is he going about this all, in the most perfect way? Probably not. But I think he's definitely got the idea that something's up with this kingdom and the people in it, so... there is that. Now, this part got me. This was like, it's already enough that it was a clone. Because initially you're thinking like, okay, that's the real Lucius then, and he had a clone. But no, he's chilling. He's not even there right now. And I like that we finally got it disclosed at where he's been this entire time. Because I was under the impression that he was within the Tree of Death, the underworld. But he had purified it. So that's what I had taken this place for, but it's good to know that he's in a candle, he's just floating. So he's literally on some like Dragon Ball shit, like how the Kami had the Kami house. No, that was Roshi's house. It was the floating palace thing where the hyperbolic time chamber was. He's got one of these things happening, and that's super dope. I love that a lot. What is happening in here? Oh, those are mountains. Okay. So he says, and then I'll descend once more as the Wizard Emperor. So, like, I don't know if he really means, like, he'll literally descend from here to the ground there, or if descent is more so talking in like demonic terms, and that's kind of what I want to talk about with my theory. But if there are now two of you, that just means I'll need to take you down once again. Which is like, look at it took so much to get one down. Saying that as confidently as he is, like, I mean, what else are you supposed to say? But at the same time, it's like, dude, get real. That it's not happening. And then he said, who said anything about two? Then you got, so I think there's like 13 in this picture. Let's count together. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them. Like, come on. There's no way. And he says, you really were strong, Grinburial. And we have Lucius that is not with right now. He's attacking other mages here. And we finally get Kaiser, but now he's like almost dead. He's about to die. That's awesome. Anyway, then these guys are losing hope. And this is within Yuno's spell of Neverland, where they found new hope, and Lucius is completely decimated there. So he says, no matter how you look at it, there's nothing we can do. And this is the guy who gave us the pep talk in the beginning. This is the mushroom guy. And now he's saying there's nothing we can do. So you can tell they've been demoralized effectively. And that might be just part of the strategy. When it comes to battle, the mindset is important, and it will change the tide of what happens. And anyone who's ever played a sport in their life can say the same thing. You can be losing, 10 points down. I had one of these instances in my season that just ended for lacrosse. We were down for, it was 3 points in the last, I think we had 3 minutes. And we ended up coming up, tying the game. They got the last shot on us, but the momentum had ended up, rising a lot because we had a bunch of people in attendance at the end of that game, really cheering on our guys. So there's a new feel on the field, and people want to try harder. They want to fight harder. So it means everything. And this could have been an absolutely tactical plan by Lucius, that he wanted to demoralize them, because as soon as they're low on faith, they've got no other place to look other than him, who's offering them a way out. So this might be how he gains followers, but we'll see. So Noelle, trying to be the voice of reason, saying not yet. There's still hope left, and you can see she's kind of marked up. So I want to know what Osir is doing with her. Then we get the crew. This is the most exciting part of the entire chapter. Because I thought at first it was just dumb. They walked out of the Black Bull's hideout with zero plan. And I'm glad the plan they came up with was, let's just go see the Witch Queen. That's the best thing they could have done. So good for them. When it comes to looking for someone, I knew it. You really are the best option. And the whole squad showed up. We got Sekre right on Charmy's head. Perfect. And then Witch Queen, Bay's right back. She's the best character, bar none. I don't care what anyone says at all. Still looking condescending. I love that too. And she says, please lend us your help, Witch Queen. So she says, my divination told me that you would be coming to see me. That anti-magic brat, Asta, is now in a foreign land. So she already had eyes on him before they even walked up to her, it seems like. Which is kind of crazy, considering that Lucius sees into futures, and she just seems to effortlessly know where he is and know how to get to him, or retrieve him, rather. So now they're all saying their stuff, but he's too far away to be summoned directly. And Dorothy says that's no problem for me. So I would like to know, number one, when Dorothy got there and how. I mean, maybe by broomstick, I guess. But it's just a little odd that Dorothy's there independent of the Black Bulls. It doesn't quite sit right with me. And the fact that Dorothy is, let's see, we have Yami William, Kaiser, Mario Leona Fuego, Is that all the captains? Jack is dead. Rill. Out of all of them, we don't have anything on her. We've never had anything on her. And this is one of the points of contention I have with Dorothy, and it started just when the Spade arc was being introduced with Noelle, where she invites Noelle to talk to Dorothy about why her siblings, Nozel in particular, are the way they are, and now we're talking about Magicula. Like, we were struggling against Magicula this entire time. We knew that we'd have to fight this devil and her host, but it seemed that Dorothy already knew all about this, and Dorothy was not involved whatsoever in the war Spade arc, which is massively suspicious. I don't like that. And then we have physical evidence of her possibly even being linked to someone like Adramelech, or the Witches' Force in its entirety, rather. And it starts with her having the squad named the Coral Peacocks. We all know that Adramelech is supposed to have a peacock's tail in lore. And then when we look at this, we see the branches with the crows on them. Well, the realm that Adramelech is supposed to rule over in the real lore is called the Ravens of Dispersion. So it is really, really, really odd that she just showed up independent of them, and her and the Witch Queen have this like really brief and casual interaction where she's like, "This is the first time you visited the forest ever since you left without permission. You seem to be in good shape." And she's like, "Oh, you flatter me, Witch Queen." Like, I want to know the relationship that they have. And right now I have, you know how you get. You guys know how I am and how I get. Like, I just start with any theory I can, and then I'll work my way down to something I like better. And right now, consider the matter of relationship that she has with Vanessa. I think she's outright stated that Vanessa is her daughter. How? We're not quite sure. Of course, we want to assume that there's a dad involved. With her specifically, I don't think a conventional father is involved when it comes to this. But we'll say so for now. So her possessiveness over Vanessa makes sense. While Dorothy, she did the same thing Vanessa did. She left. And then she went to the Clover Kingdom. Now, the difference, of course, would just be that Dorothy probably didn't go after being saved by some man. However, she left without permission, which no witches are supposed to do. And even Dominate, I think was her name, and Fonzel's wife, were going to be persecuted for doing things like that. But there's no anger or animosity towards Dorothy. So for right now, I would assume if there's any type of relation, it's not that she's just some random witch. And Dorothy acknowledges that all three of them, even though we've never seen Vanessa and Dorothy interact, are the strongest witches of all time. I think it tells me that Dorothy may be a sister to the Witch Queen. And I think it's supposed to give us this good witch, bad witch, Wizard of Oz type feel, where Dorothy is, there's no other better term for this, bubbly. Just like the good witch came down and met Dorothy in a bubble. And then you have the wicked witch. Now, our witch is not green or anything like that, but I think you guys can see the points I'm getting at there. So anyway, she says, "I also guess that in order to defeat Lucius, we need the help of Asa, whose future cannot be seen." And so she says, "If it's us three, strongest witches in all of history, there's nothing we can't do, right?" So I think that's a pretty big statement to make. And I do believe that Tabata has confirmed that these are our sisters of fate, Dorothy, the Witch Queen, and Vanessa. They say, "This is the first time you visit..." Yeah, we saw that part. Anyway, well, the world is in danger. We witches will help you out. So I don't know like why there was no sense of urgency before, like when Lucifero came out. Maybe she saw that he'd be defeated, but now the world is in danger, and she still wasn't even. She's not even moved. Like, I guess we'll help you, which is also suspicious. I don't like that. I think the Witch Queen has always been suspicious, and when it comes to Asta, we can't cut her any breaks. She wanted Asta to begin with. She specifically wanted his anti-magic and the swords. So really the only thing she's really after is Libe and those swords. She could do without Asta if it comes down to that. Towards the end here, we have with the spatial mage of the Black Bulls at its core, with extreme compound magic, we can cast Doors of Destiny. So this is the part that makes me a little bit wary. This and it's why I said it on Twitter, literally looks like an eye to me. And the fact that it has to do with spatial magic, I said it should be called Beelzebub's eye. It looks very similar to the portal that Xenon opens after he takes Yami and before he takes Yami, anytime he uses that portal. So it's a little bit weird. And when it comes to witches serve three devils. And one of those devils is Satan, another is Beelzebub, and the other, which is Astaroth. And if you put them in order in which ones that they serve, I think the most popular when it comes to witches is Astaroth, and then Beelzebub, and then Satan. And when we think of things like the Salem witch trials, I think there were like something like 40 some odd documents from witches talking about how they're serving Astaroth versus like 20 some odd documents talking about how they serve Beelzebub. So, and I might have those numbers wrong, but it's something like that. So yes, this does make me a little bit worried. And, you know, all the Adremelech references that we've made between Dorothy and the Witch's Forest, and most specifically the Witch Queen, it's just really, 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 really sus. But then we get Dorothy again. It makes it possible to meet the person you want to meet. It's amazing magic, isn't it? And then we have Asta. After someone says, "This is important to you," and says, "Yes, thank you." So, that's the end of the chapter. Oh, and I didn't talk about the symbols here. So, let's look at the symbols on the ground and the patterns and all that real quick. We have not seen these markings at all, ever, in Black Clover. We've seen the inside of grimoires, they don't match. We've seen spirit contracts, this definitely does not match. We've seen demonic writing, this absolutely does not match. What else have we seen? We've seen actual runes, and by that I mean the runes that we see with Patri when he ambushes Fuegolian. Those were actual runes. And then we see rune arrays, and those don't look like this either. We've seen Zora's arrays, which aren't very different, if different at all, from what we've seen already from the Heart Kingdom's arrays. So there's that. But then we have some symbols on the floor here. I say one symbol that is interlaced throughout the entire room, which is called the triquetra, and this is used by witches and has been used throughout time and civilizations as well, that are supposed to talk. They're supposed to symbolize the triple goddess archetype. And for Greeks, the triple goddesses are Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos, the Sisters of Fate. So it does make a lot of sense here. But yeah, let me read through you guys' comments. I see I missed a lot while we were going there. So I will read through those real quick. Alrighty. We have WK for a minute in here. I don't know if he's still in. I know it might be a little late on his end. What's going on, dude? Lucia's got 47 magics. Zeldonix, your magic is never to give up, so does mine. It's such a cool line. Kami's Lookout, that's what it was called. Thank you. Lucius is about to have a Mr. me-seek situation. I don't even know what that is. Terrence, what's going on? Uh, why am I calling Libe a liar? I'm gonna get into that like right now. Dorothy has always been one of the mysterious characters in BC. She has, and to willingly just take a witch, from see, this is why Black Clover's cool. I've never had this with another series, but like when you start just like saying things out loud, and like you're like mentally, you always go through like a brief backstory of like each thing you're talking about, and the semantics and mechanics of some things. And I'm thinking like, man, we have not seen Dorothy so awake until like she got beat by Morris, right? Other than that, she's been sleeping the entire series for the most part. I think it's a little weird that her eyes have been open pretty much since the Advent started, right? I don't know. I don't think I like that. Because with her eyes open, Lucius's eyes have been open as well. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't like that. I'm really not liking that. Alright. Anyway. Her clothes are green. I don't know what you're talking about. Maiden, Mother, and Crown. Exactly. That is part of the Tricretro thing and the triple goddess archetype. Queen's face just looks annoying with the... And, well, that's brought up too, with the crone, the maiden, and the mother. That was also brought up years ago on this channel when we were talking about Vonica, and the Sisters of Fates as well. And that all connects to Lilith, which I have surmised in this series to be Megicula. And I understand that Lilith was already introduced with Nama. But when it comes to the females of the underworld, they are supposed to be in 3 different places at the same time, living as 3 different beings, but all in the same. And this is something when I talked about when Megicula first descended, and something I also talked about before she descended, when we first met Vonica in the Heart Kingdom. Well, not first met, but when we first saw her in the Heart Kingdom, before her fight with Lolopechko. It does seem that there's a lot of references to them being involved with devils, subtly and right in front of our faces. So it is kind of weird. And I think I was talking to WK about this, but one of the things, like with Dorothy, that didn't quite line up was how Dorothy has dream magic. And I'll show you the tree for reference. Dorothy was the apostle over Yesod. Right. Right here is where Dorothy was. And her magic, of course, was dream magic, right? And it makes sense, now let's say this is Klippa, right? You'd have Nama here, Lilith here. Lilith is most correlated with nightmares, which would be the stark opposite of what Dorothy was here when she was Reeve. So the fact that Lilith came out with ice magic instead was a little bit odd, but if we still conflate Megicula to a tripart Lilith, it could still make sense. But I did think that was just a little bit weird, how that's happening, and we might get more explanation for that further down the road. And then we've got Queen. You said it's not, the skin is not green, but her clothes. Oh, okay. Her clothes are green. You're right. Good observation. And the male version of Lilith is Leviathan. Is that like true? That the male version of Lilith is Leviathan? Because I think it's important to like. You might not be wrong when you say that. I've not personally seen that. However, it is important to have the right lore for this series. This series has dealt a lot in Gnostic belief and more in things like the Kabbalah, right? And those stories do differ sometimes quite a bit, and sometimes not very much at all. As far as Leviathan goes, Leviathan was there were two of them, there were male and female. Essentially, almost right away, God understood that he did not want them to procreate, so he killed the female and made her into like a meal that's supposed to be eaten for the apocalypse, in which the male Leviathan would then rise during the apocalypse, be slain, and will be offered up as food with the female remnants, I guess. So that's... I'm not sure about that piece of information, but if you want to help clear that up for me, absolutely. While that happens, I'll get into this theory and why I'm calling Liebe a liar. Okay. First off, I do want to clarify something. And I was talking to WK, and I have to thank him for this, because I do run a lot of my theories through WK first before I put it out to anyone else. And it helps to talk these things through with someone, because you won't be able to see the flaws in some of the things that you're saying until you actually get into like a conversation with someone. So when I was telling WK about the theory that I had or have, one of the fundamental pieces to this puzzle I was getting wrong, and I'd been getting wrong on this channel for a while. So I want to take the time to clear this up. For a very long time, I have been saying that Liebe was the dead son of Lit. And for a long time, it was because we just didn't know that there were two sons, or twins. They could definitely be male and female. We didn't know that at the time, for a very long time. When we did, I still stuck to the fact that Liebe would be the one that died. However, after talking through it, it would not make any sense, because the foundation of the reincarnation spell was that all the elves that were there and died at that time were kept somewhat alive. Their souls were kept in place for all those years until they found a vessel that suited their wavelength. So that means that the spirit that Yuno has would have to be the one that died then and there, while the one that survived with Tetsuya, in my theory, would be Liebe, which does make this a lot more interesting in my opinion. So starting from there, if we take that Liebe was the son that survived on with Tetsuya, this means that he lived on for Lord knows how many years, had descendants though, right? And we don't really know how long elves live, how long they're supposed to live, rather. We have zero evidence of any parental elves either. Patri was the youngest elf that we had there, if I'm not mistaken. At least the youngest apostle for sure. And no one claimed this kid. There was no one there that was like, oh yeah, that's my kid. You know, it's the elf of Charlene, whatever. Same with Charlotte's brother, right? There was no... He's also young, and so was Lyra, was also young. No parents. So we don't know how the elves are made, which I think lends more into the old idea that I'll also bring up again in this theory, that Supreme Devils were former elves, if not former apostles. I would probably take that jump to say apostles. So take it like this. Liebe is that second child who does survive on with his mom, Tetsuya. And there's no other place for them to go except for, I forgot what it's called, Elysia, that we know of right now. So they go there. Liebe lives long enough to see himself despair, right? Now, if we have to get this timeline together, there's still a big blank spot between when Sekre essentially falls into a deep slumber for 500 years, and when she had to refine this grimoire. So during that time, let's just say that Liu Bei is alive and well. He's older. He's had descendants. He he may have lived long enough to see himself despair and become a dark elf and go through the actual process, right? Now, with that, there could be a lot of motives as to why, like, he would despair. What does someone like Liu Bei, whose entire tribe was demolished, what does he have to despair over? I guess would be more of the questions that would need to be answered, which of course I wouldn't know because I don't write the series. However, I do want to say that with what we have right now in the series happening, we have Noel with a named, for now, spirit, who is named Leviathan, who has been named as a demon in most, if not all, sources. And then we have who's got the spirit of Lick's son, who may or may not be able to despair, and has star magic. And I've told you guys this almost like every day. I feel like Beelzebub is attributed to the stars, the fixed stars, the zodiac, as well as wind. And then who else do we have on my list? Because I'm going to talk about one other character we have not considered, but also fits into this realm. We have a man who has what seems like the body of Astaroth and the core of Satan. So those are two more devils here. Who else do we have? Asta with Liu Bei. And I do believe Liu Bei is Lucifer, and we've talked about that in a lot of streams. But Liu Bei's power is pretty much what you find when you read things like Temple of the Black Light and things based around Luciferianism. And I'm missing some. Oh, because there's some we haven't met yet. So here's what I'm thinking. I do think that the Order of the Fly will descend through human vessels. And I think we're just waiting on specific conditions to be met. And I think this is where we take this thing that Tabata does, where he'll introduce a concept on a very, very small scale, and then he'll apply it in a bigger scale later down the road, and it becomes much, much bigger. Same idea with this candelo, right? We know what a candelo is. And then we see the roots on top of the candelo, and we understand that that's the tree that was literally summoned from Klippa, attached to this candelo, because it's using the outside mana, where in the former candelos they had trouble traveling because they were using people who have limited amounts of mana, whereas nature doesn't have that limit. It has mana everywhere. So we're taking small ideas and making them bigger and bigger. Order of the Gnats, fuck off. What I'm doing here is kind of doing the same thing. We saw Megicula descend through a very specific need, right? She needed 3 mages, strong mages of the same sex. And that is also not probably the best way to describe it, right? Because Asier at the time absolutely was very strong. She would not have stacked up against some of the mages that we see now, especially not, and we're not talking about Asier with a paladin amp. Just Asier as she was would not stack up against the people that we have now. And then we have someone like Lolopechka, who absolutely does have a lot of mana. To say that she's strong would definitely not be the right thing to say about her. Then we have Vonica, who is strong. She does have a lot of mana. So she would fit there, but one of the strongest females, I don't know. There's a lot to that statement that was made that I'm not sure if we got the actual scoop on, but we got something close to it. But we take this and understand that Devil's already tried years ago, where they had an advent of Klippa, and we saw this through the Heart Kingdom's wisdom, that it was almost successful. 90% of the world was overtaken by devils. And then somehow it was stopped, right? This plan that was going on for the second advent of Klippa was never supposed to be successful. And I've detailed that out. But in short, it's just you have 3 mages, 4 with Morris, who are supposed to stay in specific spots, in specific rooms, that are supposed to hold off the forces of the entire continent. The strongest forces of the entire continent. It makes no sense. And then if you do want it, for 7 days, nonetheless, for 7 days, they're supposed to hold these people off. On top of that, they're supposed to keep the rooms somewhat intact, it seems like, on top of not being able to leave it. And then, on top of all of that, we have the added variable of wayward devils like Lilith and Nama, who had no qualms about killing a member of the Triad or disrupting the entire Advent itself by just nuking the entire kingdom. They had no problems. So this plan was never supposed to work, in my opinion. But it does seem like it was needed, maybe for Lucius to come out of Julius. And maybe even to, jailbreak Adremelech for whatever Lucius uses him for. So, with that said, I think that these devils, their mode of descent is contingent on them all being in the same place altogether. And I've come around to the fact that Tabata might not be using the Order of the Flies per se, but he will be using the 7 deadly sins, if not the Order of the Flies. And one of the reasons that I'm saying it's the Order of the Flies now is because of one character in particular. And that character is somewhere in this picture. And I want your opinion. Who's going to be the 7 deadly sin person in here? Only one. There's only one. But as you guys give me your answers, I will read through these comments. I see there's more coming in. Okay. So Josh. Byron, you're saying hello, by the way, Byron. Were you here earlier? I don't know. But hello. Lucius looks as if he's making his own kingdom of heaven. It does look like that. Josh, you say understandable and reasonable. If I remember right, they're epithets of one another, and internals can be made male or female, however they choose it. Infernals will be the best to show themselves to whoever. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look into that. I have not seen anything saying like Leviathan is the male version of Lilith. If anything, I've seen that Samael, the Angel of Darkness, would be that, because he was the one that was going around and, banging devil chicks and making more demons. So, and that's also conflated with Beelzebub, since he is the Dark Father. But there's probably more stuff I haven't read. I discover new stuff every day. Byron Jack, what do you think about Lucius saying he will recreate a primordial nursery and then finally descend into it and rule the world? I said it when I saw it with Night, and I see that the translation has been changed here. But a primordial nursery does sound like he's about to drop a massive singularity on the Clover Kingdom. Because I forgot what the actual term is, but it's called a star nursery or something like that, where a star's life cycle is that it'll expand until it implodes. I think some will even explode, but for the most part, I believe they implode. Then the materials from that star end up creating the building blocks for a new star and a galaxy if there's some left over. But that's what it sounds like he's doing and wants to do, and it does kind of fit with the plan. And part of Julius's last name does come out to mean like star, so it's a little interesting that was what came out of it. And considering that he's got body, blood, and bone magic, which we knew he'd have, we probably have to assume the devils that those magics are attached to are probably with that as well, which means the singularity could come, or something much greater than that, since gravity, time, and space should be able to do whatever it really wants with anything. But yeah, that's kind of my thought on it. Leo, both the twins and Megicula were gonna nuke the spade. Right, and it really just didn't seem like the best plan. You know, if releasing all the devils was the end goal, it wasn't going to happen with these devils that kept straying off the path. So that's kind of it. We have no guesses, so that's great. So when it comes to 7 deadly sins, someone that keeps flying under everyone's radar as an unimportant character is Charmy. So Charmy is really interesting because she has, of course, that wolf spirit inside of her grimoire. And the way this wolf has, I guess we could say, maybe chosen to manifest, is very, very much like the way that Liebe is kind of manifesting through Asta, right? Both of them had no idea, like, number one, that there was something else inside of the grimoire for a while. Asta has been a bit smarter. This is the one time we can say that about Asta. In the way that he decided to talk to his spirit, where Charmy seems to have yet to do so. But to me, I've been equating this wolf to Fenrir, I always forget the other two wolves' names, Shakti and Hakti, whatever the fuck. But anyway, what this devil could be, this wolf, is the sin of greed, who is governed by Mammon, or Mammon, I think is how it's actually pronounced, but I like to say Mammon. And it's pretty telling just because she literally has spells that talk about gluttony and greed. Now, there is a big difference between gluttony and greed, because gluttony is the sin that Beelzebub has. But it is not described, when we talk about Beelzebub and gluttony, when it comes to the lore that he's mentioned in with this, it's not gluttony in the way that he is like, oh, I need to eat more food and blah, blah, blah. But greed absolutely is. It is that along with money. And I think something that could be considered currency would be mana. I think it's fair to say. And it had no problem eating negative mana either, when usually negative mana seems to affect the things that it interacts with. So it was pretty interesting that nothing ended up happening with that. And on top of all of that, half of her grimoire turns black. I mean, what other sign do we actually need to say that that might be a devil? And then we look at some of the aesthetic features of the wolf itself, like its eyes, where it has a black markings around both of its eyes. Again, very telling of something a devil might have. And just absolute strength and power. I mean, she's not been defeated once. Willingly, we could say. And the fights that she has had and won have been won in about one punch, if not a little more. So something's up with this kid. And I do think if we do get Charmy, Asta, Noel, Lucius, who will have 2 in this case, Yami, I forgot to mention, with Lucifagus, of course. But Lucifagus and WK is probably going to laugh. Skull and Hati, thank you. But that might be our Belphegor, which I'll be upset if that really is. I hope it's not. But, I mean, if it's Lucifuge, then Tabata might actually be rolling out with the Order of the Flies, which would be dope. Because that has not been written really at all in the series, and that'd be really interesting to actually delve into. And I think Tabata could have a lot of fun with that. But other than that, we're missing the 7th one, which is Asmodeus. And I don't think we've had any inkling on Asmodeus yet in this series. And I have said I think it'd be cool if Asier was the one who had Asmodeus, as it'd be a stark opposite to the Demon of Lust. But I guess we'll see if this happens at all. Now, I am missing a few key things here and there, but that is the idea, that there will be these 7 sins, and that Liebe, in particular, has been lying the entire time. And I know that statement in and of itself could be problematic, and this is something that WK pointed out to me while I was telling him this theory as well, was was that Union, something like Union, can never happen because they have to be on the same wavelength mentally and physically for the most part. They have to be on the same page. And I think that is the beauty of why I think Libe is a liar. And more specifically, the biggest liar in all of history, which is Lucifer. Because he can lie so well that these things can be pulled off. And I was actually reading a passage today. I think it was on my phone and not on a tab here. But that it was said that Lucifer was such a good liar that even God and the angels didn't pick up on it until it was around too late. But I mean, does God really have to pick up on it if he's, that strong, right? He kind of just yeeted Lucifer to begin with. But the fact that they never caught on, right? And it didn't really dawn on me until I was thinking about this, but even in lore of the Garden of Eden, Lucifer was just chilling in there. Like, not in his true form, of course, but completely undetected. That is the sort of lie that we're looking at. And so now we get into another problematic barrier, right? Where we have guys that can detect lies, right? We have guys like Asta and Yami for the reasons that they can detect Ki. But I do want to bring us back to a point in this series where that, even Ki reading, wasn't something that that helped Yami determine whether someone was lying or not. And that was back in the Elf arc, right off of Julius injuring Patri and William, both sharing the same body, of course, where William, at that time was Raya, sat in a captain's meeting with Gildre, Yami, Rill, Charlotte, all of these people, and lied directly to all of their faces with a lie detector in the room, who was already somewhat suspicious of them. And not one red flag came up. Now, this could be chalked up to Tabata forgetting that Yami's a lie detector, or that he will include that at some point in the story. But it's the same thing. So if Libe can mask his Ki to where that anything he says comes off as truthful and genuine, then Asta would not have a reason to not believe things that Libe says. Now, if we really study what Libe does and what he says, there are some things that just don't sit right. And it didn't sit right at the time either. Back in his fight with Dante, where he goes berserk, right? And then Yami and Asta are both on their last legs. And they have so much time before Dante ultimately wins this fight. Libe tells Asta that he should sacrifice part of his body to him to gain more strength. And I've been wanting to know at what point in Libe's existence did he learn how to do that? Because the only other devil we've seen do anything close to this was Megicula with Vonica, when she took over Vonica's eye. And that was forceful, unless there was supposed to be a moment like Asta had with Libe that we just didn't see. But we've not seen a devil be able to do something like that. And as far as we know, Libe spent most of his life outside of the underworld. He was very, very young when he got yeeted out. Spent a lot of his time with Lucida, and then got taken over by Lucifero before he killed Lucida and got sealed. So at what point do you learn that, is the question. And I think he did that to really gain a foothold, right? In the real world, of course. Something that he's always wanted. But there's a moment not too long after that when Xenon comes to clean up Dante's mess, where Asta goes back to Libe, and Libe says, "You're not strong enough." And I think that was possibly a lie. If Libe is Lucifer, understand that Lucifer would be the master manipulator. He knows what's going to happen because they're all working for him. Not to say that the Triad understood who that was, or even Satan. I think there's some funny stuff happening too, like literally funny, that they're, as much as they're including Satan still, they're not including him because he's an idiot, and all devils know that. But at the very end of the day, they're all following Lucifer and his plan. And if the plan is to descend together, then he, you know, he might know that the purpose of the triad is supposed to unlock the gates of the underworld, at least the first one or two, to help, you know, some devils descend or some things to start happening to get the ball rolling for this, right? So I think he willingly opted not to give any more sacrificial pieces to Asta, because we needed this to happen first. So then we also get to, I had a couple of other parts I wanted to talk about. Let me see if I can pull up my my notes here. Let's see. Oh my goodness. I definitely did forget. I have 2 videos, you guys. Yikes. I have a script that is unfinished and I completely forgot that it was here. It's about Lee-based descent specifically. Let me kind of skim through what I have here really quick. Fall from grace, blah blah blah. Let's see. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm not sure if I'm ready for that to be said yet. But, yes, we know that. And then, okay. Yeah, honestly, I think I have to save some of this for that video. Yeah, I think the rest of that I do have to save for the other video. But so let's say he is Lucifer. Let me get this point off, and then I'll read the comments. There's a few of you guys in there. I completely forgot what I was going to say, so I'm just going to read the comments. Okay, so Byron, Jack, it seems like the Spade Saga was just one big shamble on the villain side, since each villain was playing into another's bigger and greater plan. I think it was going according to plan to, in this case, Liebe. And in part Lucius as well, of course. And then WK, if he lied so hard he got himself all twisted up, that's wild. Yeah, Yami was too worried about being constipated all the time, and that's Belphegor's thing, man. He's always on the toilet. It's crazy. I'll be mad if there's no Belphegor in the story, you guys. I'll be upset. Okay, Josh. If Lucifuge Focal comes in, then we're dealing with 3 deities who are keeper of oaths and oversee them: Greek god Helios, Greek goddess Styx, and the infernal Lufigia Rofocal. I just say Lucifuge Rofocal, since that's how it's normally written. Yeah, I don't. I see what you're saying. I don't think that it's gonna be like that many. How do I put this? I guess pantheons in one place. You know what I mean? Like, I think Tabata will stick with one, but there could be room for something like, this is like, as far as like a Greek pantheon would go. There would be a world before the Black Clover that we knew, where they were called things like Helios and stuff like that, which is why we have Norse references for spells, right? Just kind of remnants of an old world, I think. But it does make sense what you're saying. WK, so not to change subjects, but you were talking about Charmy is the one in port other Black Bull cast with that pick. What's the thought on Luck nowadays? He obviously should be kind of similar to Mary. Yeah, so it is interesting. With Luck's transformation, when it comes to ultimate magic, it's you guys, you should have said something. I did not see that. I didn't have the screen up at all. For at least for you guys to look at all these clones of Lucius. But anyway, yeah, when Luck, when he transforms with his ultimate magic, he has a lot of signs of like a presence of a devil being there, right? He's got the orbs like Asta has. He's got horns. He's got a tail. He's got claws. And he of course just has always loved to fight, right? And he is also turned into his element. One of the only humans to ever do that, aside from Mario Leona. And then the other times we saw that was with devils, Nama and Lilith. So something's got to give. And something is happening. And I guess this does kind of spoil another theory that I have wanted to put out, but who cares? I do think that somehow, some way, these devils have been reaching into the world of the living and corrupting them in very subtle ways. There's a part that I can recall off the top of my head in the Seabed Temple when Noelle is facing off against Vetto, where Vetto looks at Noelle after she discloses who she is and what clan she's from and who her squad is. He says that you're from the most vile clan. Now, I guess we could maybe say that he at that point he may have understood that Lumiere was the ultimate evil, but the family does split off, and I don't know. It just seems like a big jump to say that Noelle is the most vile of the clans. But I do think that the royals in general have been connected with the devils pretty intimately and knowingly for quite a while. And I did suspect this when I started observing Longreese and Finral, where they have Longreese has spells that have names like Archangel, Spatial, whatever, right? And Finral has Fallen Angel, where we know Beelzebub's history is that he was the highest angel, and no angel flew above him except for God. And when he fell, no devil sinks below him except for the god of the underworld, which is Lucifer. So, and then to find out that Beelzebub has spatial magic at all, right? Where he can use it offensively and defensively, or passively, I should say. Really makes me look at that entire family as very sus, right? And they are nobles, granted. But when we look at some royals like the Vermilions, Mario Leona in particular, and I do have something to say about Leo that you guys might find funny or like. It depends on what crowd you're part of. But anyway, Mario Leona, along with Luck, one of the only humans to ever become her attribute. And is doing Nama-like things before we ever meet Nama, where she's negging all kinds of magic with her fire, right? Now, granted, it might be less burning than it is just outright negging mana versus mana, but it's the same type of thing that's happening. And again, her body turning into fire, something that Nama did directly. I think there will end up being a balance that needs to be held. And there might be some people that, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to look. I can only do so much theorizing before I'm just straight up writing a whole new story. But if there comes an opportunity to start kind of filling in for the devils that they've lost along the way, I do believe Mario Leona could be a candidate for someone like Nama. We only have one Ice Mage left, unless you want to count Heath. And one of him or Fragile, I don't know how to say her name, might get chosen for someone to take over Lilith's spot. it really depends on how things look. But for Luck in particular, I had made a thread about his angelic standing, I guess you could say, as far as the Tree of Life goes. That his element, while he's not an apostle of Saphira, is still important to the schematics for the whole thing, right? They call the path from God to Malkut, which is the physical world or universe, the path of lightning, as well as the path of the sword and the fool's path. So this is how power is distributed from one sphere to the next, and it travels by lightning from God. So I think his place is sort of an intermediary force that's going to be a bit more obscure than the rest. But yeah, I don't know. I think Luck's going to be a really interesting character when all is said and done, because of course we can liken him to things like Thunder Gods, but those also end up just being linked to Beelzebub, which is kind of funny. What else do we have in here? Okay, Andre, sorry if I missed this, but if you think that Liebe is Lucifer, why did Asta's berserk form happen? That's a really good question, and I see that WK's asking about Wrath. I think that's the best place to kind of go, right? So let's look at the sins together, because sometimes I do mix them up too. So the 7 deadly sins, Lord, right? Who are our 7? This is Encyclopedia Britannica, which I will take. Okay. All right. Oh, they don't talk about the devils that belong to them. Okay. Should I say who are the 7 deadly sins? Because I don't want like the manga popping up. Demons. Okay, cool. So we have Lucifer at Pride, Mammon at Greed, Asmodeus at Lust, Leviathan at Envy, Beelzebub at Gluttony, Satan's Wrath, Belphegor Sloth. Okay. So let me look at your question. So why did Asta's berserk form happen? I do think it could be that Liebe lost himself for a minute, though. So this goes a part of... Sorry if you guys hear all that Velcro. I've been like slowly taking off my boot. There's something going on with my foot. But anyway. Oh my god, my fucking entire leg hurts. Anyway. The berserk form, I'm still questioning myself. But I think if we want to tack it on to this theory right now for it to make sense, I do think that Liebe could have lost hold on his cool. There's no perfect game. No one plays a perfect game. No one holds a perfect poker face. We have to remember that Liebe was the one saying, like, I'll kill you, blah, blah, blah. I hate you. And he's talking directly to Lucifero. Well, not directly, but he's speaking about Lucifero and his feelings about Lucifero. So that part is a bit interesting because we, of course, right now think, well, he obviously hates Lucifero because he killed Lucida, which was like his mom, which is totally valid, and I can't take that away from anyone. But I always try to think long game, and I think in a case like that, we have to understand that in some of our most famous poems, like Milton's Paradise Lost, Satan is not favored amongst really anyone. And when it comes down to it, it seemed that he was in contest with Lucifer for the spot at the throne, in which he was swiftly overthrown by Beelzebub. And so I think there's a legitimate amount of hatred towards Lucifero that is more politically based than it is that he killed Lucida. And let me kind of go into some of the other funny things that kind of happen off of this, right? So I did mention how Lucius would be bringing in 2 devils, right? How I think that they're using the body of Astaroth that we knew as Julius, but he has the core of Lucifero. And for a plan like this, Consider that Zagreus' descent took 500 years to actually get down, right? For a plan like this, Satan, or Lucifero rather, is not a patient thing at all. He's not a patient devil whatsoever. He wanted out. He ends up making another contract with someone else. He's squeezing the life force out of this person, speeding up the advent. He's doing everything he can to get out. He's not about to wait any longer than he's already been waiting. So a plan like the one I'm proposing to you has taken way more than 500 years, or maybe around that time. And he was probably sick of it, and he probably wanted out right then and there. And he was probably trying to get Satan to back down by extending a bit more of his power to defeat Dante. And then that way, when Xenon comes with Beelzebub, who is always going to be part of this plan, faithfully a part of the plan, since Beelzebub is the right-hand man, that he would make sure that both Satan and Lucifer are dealt with accordingly, and explains a little bit of the reason why Xenon only peered at Asta, but didn't do anything about the threat directly. Also could explain more of the reason why Yuno was not left as finished off as he should have been. Everyone else got shish kebab to the nines, while left with a singular stab wound. So all of that has always been very suspicious. And that's kind of my reasoning for Berserk mode. It's you can easily write it off if you want to, but there are weird things that happen. But when it comes to like Libe being a child, right, within the underworld, getting bullied, and he notes that Nama and Lilith were essentially his bullies, right, his prison wardens, and we see he has this animosity towards Lilith and Nama because he spent the most time with them in this new life that he's living, and I think that just goes back to like a cycle of reincarnation. But anyway, I do think he killed them not because they're just devils and they bullied him, or I think it's because he got bullied by them, despite them possibly even knowing like who he was, or should have known who he was. So he killed them out of spite, and it's something that devils do, right? We saw devils come out of the underworld and start playing basketball with other devils for no other reason than the fact that they could. I mean, if he turns around to be this maniacal but very calculating type of being, I think it would really put his character up a few notches, in my opinion. But we do, in my, again, opinion, I think we need a better antagonist than Lucius, because Lucius is starting to become, chapter by chapter, less and less of a final type villain. And it's mostly because he's letting his ego take over. And this was kind of the birthplace of why, not the birthplace, but really why I decided to put out more stuff about, other things happening down the line that don't really involve Lucius. But with the Descent, they could be bringing Satan back, since he did get his core consumed by Lucius. It doesn't mean he's all the way done, in my opinion. I think that's what that means. So when they all do descend, if they all do descend, Satan comes back, kind of, kerfuffled, but like in a way where everyone else is like, well, you should have just stuck with the plan and you could have descended with the rest of us instead of going through all that, because it seemed like when it comes to Lucius against Beelzebub, it feels like Beelzebub just laid down and kind of was like, all right, you do your thing, and didn't really put up a fight. There's no notable things that happened or that was brought to our attention, except for the fact that when Lucius got to the 7th level of hell, Lucifer was already halfway done anyway. So I think they're just taking the opportunity for Lucius to be used with his soul magic to pop their souls outside of Klipbach, and then once Lucius is dealt with accordingly, however, whatever that means, maybe not necessarily death, they all may descend. But it will be interesting to see what it looks like. Okay. So Byron, you're asking. I think I can take this off. Byron, you're asking. Where'd you go? Oh, Jack, what's your thoughts on Lucius's true plan, and do you think he will bring hell to Living Realm Purified? No, I think essentially what I just said. I think that devils are using him, more so Beelzebub is using him so that he gets all of the Supreme Devil Souls attached to a body that might suit them the best, and once they're all together, they descend that way, and Lucius is no longer part of this plan. But I do also have some thoughts as far as what will happen with Lucius that I might reveal on a later stream, I think. And WK, well, you started talking about Seven Sins, Wrath. I'm wondering if it's potential for luck in that thought. It's similar to Mario, but his design is much more reminiscent to a devil. Yes, it is. I don't know if I'd say Wrath, because Wrath would go right to Lucifer for luck. But to be super fair, Lucifer does fall like lightning from heaven, so who knows? I guess it could just be a design choice of lightning versus fire, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Samuel, why did Ryu and the Witch Queen? Okay, so why can Ryu and the Witch Queen see Asta, and Lucius can't? And that's part of the questions that I have as well. I have people telling me like, well, divinations come from gods and stuff, blah blah blah. And I'm not mad at that. That makes sense. But to say that these witches that have more in common with devils to be connected to gods just seems really, really crazy to me. Not to say that they can't do both, but it definitely doesn't seem like they do both. Helix, how you doing? How you doing? All right, and then we got Shelly's two theories. I'll wait till the second one pops up. Let me scroll through a little bit. This was another thing too. I don't know if you guys realize, but when I did the math, the very basic math, I was like, wow, Lucius might be in the other three kingdoms right as we speak. Because there's supposed to be 12 paladin. There's 4 kingdoms. 3 times 4 gives us 12. I mean, dog. If this guy has been attacking the other kingdoms, oh my goodness. I would literally bust it. The most literal of nuts. That'd be insane, because then, like, okay, let's say he went to go attack, like, what's the weakest kingdom, right? The Diamond Kingdom, right? No, I'll say the Spade Kingdom. Say he went to the Spade Kingdom with one of his clones, right? Or he sent one of the clones to the Spade Kingdom with, like, 1 to 3 other paladin. And he just like busts out in front of like, hey, it's not all bad on my side. Like, here's your mom, she likes it, and like busts out CO as a paladin with moon magic and whatever her devil is. Like, that would be so cool, but also like, dude, there's no getting away from this guy. But this kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the last stream, where like, at some point we're gonna have to see people fall in line with Lucius. That's the whole point of the Antichrist, where people flock towards them because they're raising the dead, creating these miracles, right? Exhibiting types and forces of power that are unexplainable to your average human. So naturally people will be like, oh, I like what this guy's doing, I should probably be following him in his lead. And say they do. He's now made his job much easier, where he's proved himself, where I am God. I don't have to even be here to exert my will. And on top of that, the people that you love are happy with me. So not saying that would be like, oh man, you're right. But some of these other guys, some of the peons that were just in this, like these guys, maybe even Kaiser, that'd be crazy if you had a captain. But, look at him. He looks like a god. Look at all this destruction that he's rained on these people. And he's outdone their best guy, who's got 2 grimoires, who looks like a god himself. And he's not really saying anything that's like, okay, I'm here to just kill you. He's saying, I'm here to, kill your current bodies, but bring you back in better ones. In ones that will be equal with everyone else, where you won't have to fight anymore. That, in this type of situation, after he's effectively demoralized them, should draw a few followers, in my opinion. There's always a few, people that are like that and stuff like this. But yeah. What'd you say? Okay, so we got Shelley's 2 theories here. So the first one, Liebe could be Heidi from Movie Joker, and Ostroff is using his body to defeat Lucius until he will return Liebe to his body after they defeat Lucius. Then the second one is Liebe could be the reincarnation of Yuno after Lucius has killed him and sent him into the underworld. I think like Sun, who got sent reincarnated in the past, is Asta, and Belle is Lucida. I think one of the parts that I agree with is that Belle could be Lucida. Absolutely. That was actually a video that I made a little while back. Other than that, I think it's a hot take, but this is a channel full of hot takes, so who am I to tell you it's wrong or right? Helix. I don't know if you commented on it earlier, but what's your thoughts on the Stargate rune array? I did make a comment about it earlier. I just think there's, a lot of ties that these witches have been making to devils in general. I know you probably saw on Twitter, I said it was like Beelzebub's eye. It looks just like the portal that Xenon goes through. It is a little sketchy. The writing on the floor is not like any writing we've ever seen in the series before. And I've literally looked that up. Like, I've gone through anywhere we've seen like new writing or writing in general. It does not match anything that we've seen. So that is another point of contention. The fact that Dorothy's the leader of the Peacocks, which is attributed to Adremelech. And the fact that the Witch Queen has the Ravens, that where Adremelech is supposed to be the ruler of the realm of that is called the Ravens of Dispersion. It all just adds up too well. And then Dorothy, her connection to Lilith in lore, not in the series, where Lilith is attributed to nightmares. All of that just seems to prove that, they're working with devils. And as far as we've seen, I guess that's not fair to say. Because I was going to say as far as we've seen, divinations have come from devils. But that wouldn't be fair to say since we have seen, oh my goodness, Witch Queen, Lolopechka is who I was talking about. So I guess that wouldn't be completely fair to say. But other points considered, it does not look good in the Witch's Forest right now, to me. Helix, you said you counted 8 circles or so and thought it was a Dante's Inferno reference, or possibly the 8 Raijin. I don't think that what are you considering circles? Because this outside one is a circle for sure. Then you have the second one that goes all the way around, and then you have this one. So I'm counting 3. And then as far as these go, I was talking about how this turns out to be a triquetera, but it's just interlaced triquetera, triquetra. Just this, any one of these variations, is what that turns out to be. But of course, it has the circle in the middle where they're usually overlapping there. But yeah, they're just interlocked, so it makes this elaborate pattern. But yeah, that's essentially my thought on it. Byron. Oh, Spirit, how's it going, man? How long do you see this arc lasting? I don't know, man. I'm really bad at that sort of stuff. People have asked me questions like that before. I don't know. I'm along for the ride, though. That's all I can say. Byron, Lucius looks as if he'll get involved later on. But honestly, I feel like the Black Bulls will arrive late to the battlefield. That's what I feel like too, though. I like it, and I kind of made this joke with Buzzard, and I've done worse things on the channel, I guess. But to be honest, I would like if he came back to a Clover Kingdom that was completely destroyed. And I know that sounds like what happened in Naruto, because it is, but I would honestly love that. But I wouldn't want it to turn out the same, because that's when Naruto was acknowledged for the first time. I would like it to be like a final thing, right? And you know, Naruto in that fight, after a very long time of not doing so, goes extremely berserk, which I would anticipate Asta doing. You know, going berserk and seeing that form again, but you know, much stronger, since he's got more things going on, like the contract. He's given Liu Bei an arm and everything, so it should look a lot crazier than what it was. Especially if they both are upset for the same reason. I mean, that would be a union on another level, I think. Alex, or they have powers like devils because of the pacts made long ago. Right, that was kind of what I was talking about with the idea that royals and nobles have been in cahoots with devils for a very long time, knowingly. And I mean, also just remember, like, there have been plenty of spatial mages, and I say this because I think it's easier to see with people like Finral and Longries. But remember when Finral was a child, they were saying like, oh wow, you're worthless. You can't even do anything with this magic. And then Longries comes around, and you're like, wow, he's going to be the best mage because he can use this magic offensively. So they were definitely looking for, you know, a destructive type of spatial magic that they didn't get out of Finral. So, you know, it's stuff like that we have to be on the lookout for. And these royals and nobles are sitting on top of the Shadow Palace directly. So there's just more of that stuff happening. I just don't, I don't see it turning out very well, which is why I think the truth matters. And I think it's more than Liu Bei really lying to people. I think it's more people lying amongst each other for their own benefit, of course. You know, because something like Lucifer could say, like, I'm not doing anything that the people next to you have not been doing, right? People lie all the time. What makes it different from what someone, in my case, what Liu Bei would want to, you know, accomplish? He just wants to be able to have a body of his own and whatever else the devils want, right? But everyone's out for their own particular needs. And they'll do whatever it takes. And they'll hide behind fancy masks, nice looking masks, to do so. And this is the point of the Dark Triad. And this is an idea that I brought up. It's in a video, in a couple, I think, where I said that they could be the collective unconscious or the collective conscious, where those archetypes would apply. You have your persona, and I'm mixing up the Freudian ones and the Jungian ones, and you have yourself, persona, your anima or animus, and your shadow self, right? And I think what ends up happening is that your persona is the mask that you wear, right? It's what you show everyone, and that's the part of you that, like, usually people don't mind. People's like, man, I can tolerate this person because they do good things. They're not outright evil. They're not killing like baby giraffes out here for no reason. But then it starts feeding into more of a shadow, because the more you can't show a side of yourself, the more it builds this other part of you, the shadow part. And the shadow part doesn't necessarily have to be bad either. You know, look at Xenon's case. In his case, he started out good. He was great. You know, he's a kid who wanted the best for his kingdom and the people around him. But given his nurture, right, and the nature of his family, like, they were devil hosts. So the more he pushes that back, the more he avoids it, the bigger it gets, right? And then we come to find out he's got a greater aptitude than Dante and Vonica to host the devil. Doesn't mean he had the highest devil, but we did see he was the only one who did turn into a devil. So, it's stuff like that that I think will need to be considered. I don't think any of these things were just like Dark Triad to be a cool name. And I don't think it just falls with Vonica, Dante, and Xenon. These are things that every person has. So I do think it comes down to a collective, conscious and unconscious when it comes to that sort of stuff. And just like Zachary was saying, like, he didn't do anything special to the humans to get them to do what they did to the elves. He played on their already existing lust for magic. That's what he said. So convenient lies, when the time is right, can do a lot of damage and can set a lot of things in motion. So it's kind of my take for right now. Okay. Okay. Shelly, if my second theory will turn out to be true, I would love to see Libe tick off at Lucius after he finds out that he was I don't understand that statement. I gotta be honest, I don't understand that. Helix, I got too many hopeful theories on a Gemelec, and they're all banking on him having radiation magic. Fingers crossed. So who knows? There's very little evidence. We just have the text box, and really, I mean, I get, because we've done on this channel. Like, I don't think, and I've told you directly, like, I don't think radiation magic is, crazy to expect from a Gemelec, or poison even. But like, based off of the text boxes of devils, I don't think we'd ever be able to like actually get what their attribute is just from that. Because like Magicula had curse warding magic. How do we get that from just little dots around, the eye of Vonica or the text bubbles? It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of weird. But then again, you do have Nama and Lilith, and those did match, I guess. So yeah, who knows? I don't know. It's hard, but Tabata's hiding it for a reason, of course. Okay, Byron. Oh no, Spirit. If there isn't a last-minute twist villain, do you think Lucius will be killed or imprisoned? I was trying to save that, Spirit. But if you guys want an original, like, crackhead Jack theory, without the context, of course, because I do want to save it. Ultimately, if my theory does come true, I think Lucius will incarnate into Asta, since Asta is empty. I think ultimately that's what can happen. And if you look at the goals, right, Lucius and Asta aren't too far off as far as agendas go. It's a matter of the method to getting to that goal that is vastly different. But I think even though Lucius is sitting up in his candelo, pretty smug looking, I think even he can understand that Asta has made quite the effect on the world around him that is much more profound than what he can do, at least in my opinion. Because I think even Lucius knows that he's forcing people to understand his way of thinking, where Asta has affected these people in such a way that they're getting stronger and more hopeful, and are driving towards that agenda anyway. So if he does end up ceasing to be like an active villain, with soul magic, you shouldn't be able to die. I don't think he has been able to die. And if he does incarnate himself, Asta would be the perfect one to do it with. And Asta's no stranger to having to win over someone who may not have your best in mind, per se, but will come around to understand that they really aren't that different. Which would be super cool to see Asta with, maybe using soul magic would be kind of cool. With the kind of power that Lucius has, it would be honestly really cool. The only issue I have with that theory is that there's not really much you can do unless Body, Blood, and Bone goes with him. there really isn't much you can do with soul magic because he hasn't really used a named spell. He's really stuck to just time, and that's about it. You know, as far as real heated battle situations go. So I'd be curious to see what that looks like. Let's see. Byron, it happened in Bleach with Ichigo arriving late to the Soul Society when you walk attacked, and this art currently is giving me a heavy Thousand Year Blood War vibe, especially after this current chapter. I still haven't read Thousand Year Blood War, so you could totally be right. But yeah, there's a lot of Bleach-inspired things anyway in this story. And I know the main story of Bleach was so good. My favorite to this day is the Espada arc, and the Stern Ritters were kind of cool, I guess, and I'm not mad at the Fullbringers either. But those are definitely iconic arcs, especially the Espada arc. Samuel can also create armor for himself, since we now know that what Zeton is and how powerful Zeton is. What do you mean create armor for himself? Because he can do that in Union. Like, yeah, clarify what you're saying, Samuel, because I'm not sure. Leo, which reminds me, I didn't even tell you what I think about Leo. The magic I'm banking on for Gemelec is having Nightmare. That would be cool. Yeah, why not? You know, I think Nightmare magic has to be a thing at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I think we all want someone to have Nightmare magic because that would be super cool. But I think the closest we were ever going to get to it is the guy, what's his name, Ural, who did the Boogeyman magic. I think that's the closest we're going to get to that, to be completely honest. But hopefully I'm wrong, because I've been wanting to see that myself. Spirit, have you heard of the theory of Hungry Joker and Black Clover taking place in the same universe? Are you asking me that? Come on. I have a video about that. Yeah. So I put out a video a while back. I'll show you which one if you do want to watch it. Because I know Broku just put something out too, like a couple days ago, talking about it again. But yeah, me and Broku, to be fair, I think I put mine out first. Spirit, I want a little respect on my name. But I know around the time me and Broku were talking, because we both had our own theories on it, and he at first thought his Black Clover was the future of Hungry Joker, and now he's with me where he thinks that it's the prequel to Hungry Joker, which is my stance, and I think I introduced that here in this DNA magic video. This was during the hiatus. This is also where we talk about him having all of their magic and being able to create bodies from the ground up and all that stuff. I mean, that video has everything, you guys. Probably the best one I've done. These 4 in this row. Probably the best ones. Yeah. But anyway, my biggest reasoning for Hungry Joker being the sequel to Black Clover is because magic preceded technology and science. Technology and science for a long time, even in my lifetime, was looked at as kind of like demonic or devil worshipping because it was magic. But it's magic explained is what it is. Quickly, my stepmom used to think I was the devil. Like, literally used to think I was the devil. She was the worst person I've ever known in my life. And she, because I was super into science as a kid, and she kept telling me, oh, that's the work of the devil, blah, 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 you can't do that. Then Harry Potter came out. She's like, no, that's the work of Satan. And, like, she disowned me. Once I brought a book of Harry Potter into the house, because we were reading it as a class, and she disowned me. It was wild. But this is how recent those thought processes are, just letting you know. But yeah. Helix, I'm glad you stopped by, dude. Thank you. Spirit, you said, gotcha. Yeah, I saw Broku's bit. It reminded me. Nice. Yeah, let me know what you think when you do check it out. Shelly, Jack, I also am thinking that Lucida could be a witch and she was captured by Morris to experiment on because the Diamond Kingdom is close to the Witch Forest and it has been explored. I'm not really mad at that, and we haven't seen Lucida's Grimoire either, so it'd be kind of cool to see that she wasn't from there, and it would kind of, even things out between Yuno and him, where they're kind of like dual citizens. If Asta's a Diamond Mage, that'd be cool. Originally, at least. That'd be pretty dope. Spirit, you said you kind of wish that Tabata kept Zagrid around longer. I still think he's coming back. Like, maybe not like back, but they're going to talk about Zagrid's story because it means everything to this story. I really do. So I wouldn't count him out as far as like, the story goes. His character might be done, but his story absolutely can't be done. It can't be done. Someone's got to mention him again. And you know what? Let's talk about Zagrid for just a minute here. Because in this kind of falls in line with another Lucifer Liebe theory that I have. But very shortly, let's remember that when Zagrid comes back fully, right? He gets his body. He's about to go to the last level of the Sephiroth that they were in the Shadow Palace, where Licht was waiting for him. Before he goes, he looks at Asta and he goes like, is his devil's magic, or is his devil resonating with my magic? Which really shouldn't be a thing, right? Because if something's working with mana, it shouldn't be able to feel Asta and vice versa. Asta obviously cannot feel mana, and he says that for several times in the series. So for Zagrid to be like, okay, something's going on because he's resonating with me. No other devil has said that ever. And then he's the special devil, right? Who has like this black hair. We haven't seen black hair until Beelzebub, but his is like actual hair, where Zagrid's was like flames. I don't think we've seen that since Zagrid either. The whole wanting the 5-leaf Clover Grimoire. He's the only one who's ever made a fuss about it, So it's just really interesting everything he was doing. But on top of him mentioning that Liebe was resonating with his mana, when Zagrid dies, or is in the process of death, his, I guess, spirit, we could say, makes a brief visit to Liebe inside of the Grimoire. That makes no sense at all. Why would any devil go inside of a Grimoire in the process of death, meet Liebe, and then, Liebe just kind of, makes him go away, essentially. It just didn't sit right, And then when you look at their silhouettes, they are pretty much fundamentally different than the silhouettes that we do see. We do see Lucifero, who's almost true to his real form, or the form that we saw. And then we have Beelzebub, who is also seemingly true to his silhouette. But the two devils, in particular, that aren't that true, are Magicula and Zagrid, where their hair looks just like Liebe's in his silhouetted form, where it's kind of waving around. They look like tentacles. I'll pull it up really quick. Oh, Shelly, that wasn't my teacher. That was my stepmother. And yeah, she was a bitch. Sorry. Let's say anti-magic devil, because that's who it was at the time, right? I don't want a bunch of pictures of Liebe. Okay, so we see his hair here. But I want this picture. This is the one I want. So, look at their hair. No one else's hair looks like that in the series. You know what I mean? Except for these two in Magicula. And the one that I mean in Magicula is when Vonnegut goes to the Heart Kingdom. And we see the silhouette. And it ultimately ends up looking nothing like her. Okay. I had the hair slightly different in my head. I don't know what I was thinking. But still, looks different from what she actually ends up looking like. And we could definitely say that's due to only 2/3 of her being manifested. But, do have to say, it's still quite different. Where the hell is the picture? This. And then, talking about Zagrid and Megicula having this weird silhouette with Libe, and Zagrid having this one-off comment saying, like, oh, he's resonating with my magic, which is weird. Then we have Megicula in real time, as soon as Asta and Libe get there, looks at her hands and she sees she's deteriorating, saying, like, his presence can bring about the most unexpected outcome. So she had to end things as quick as possible, right? And at no moment did she try to eliminate Asta and or Libe, even though she recognized them as a threat to her immediate existence at that time. So something is happening. And she says that none of the other devils have noticed us, and I do think part of the us might have been Libe at the time. It's just very, very, very sus. And those are some of the points I'm bringing up in another video that I'm working on. So I do want to save some. And yeah, Spirit, like you're saying, his word soul magic, very unique. Very, very unique. Man, I don't know. I keep saying, like, I want to save things, and then I keep thinking, like, damn, my schedule does attack me from time to time. And we are quite a ways into this video, so many people won't make it to this point. I could give you guys some of the ins that I've been thinking about. So, back to when Zagrid meets Libe really quick. It isn't until the defeat of Zagrid, early into the Spade arc, where Asta starts calling his swords by name, and they come to him. And there is no anti-magic flowing through Asta for this to happen. And there's no anti-magic that's linking Asta to the swords necessarily when he does this most of the time. So to me, it's a little bit word magic-y. And I feel like it's, if Libe's Lucifer, he's kind of reclaiming some magic abilities that some of these devils have. Because if I were to, take some concepts that have happened and apply them on a bigger scale, I guess, you take Xenon and Beelzebub. Xenon gives Beelzebub his soul in exchange for a devil's heart. And so Xenon's appearance completely changed, right? This is a type of devil we have not seen, though. We've never seen a devil have any particular type of symbolic marking on them like Xenon had on his forehead. And I will talk about one exception real quick after this. But then he maintains spatial magic along with his bone magic, which kind of tells me, like, this was fundamentally different, and that supreme ranking devils may be able to make their own high ranking devils, and through that they're kind of, I guess you would say, they're dispersing their power, if you will. So should that high-ranking devil die, the power just goes back to where it once was. And there is no word soul devil, as far as we know. You know what I mean? So if it goes back to any devil, and given Libe might be Lucifer, if he reclaims that type of magic, then he wouldn't want it to be like, oh yeah, I have word magic too, so let's use that sort of thing. It'd be something much more subtle that he can use and not even think twice about. Because even though Asta's dumb, he's not, like, super dumb. Then we look at him defeating Lilith and Nama. And this, again, something that can easily just be written off. But look at when he defeats them, right? He defeats Lilith and Nama, not singular. Nama was still alive. as we see that Lilith used her ice magic to save Nama, and then they fused together, creating a more ultimate being. And Noct even goes on to say that this wasn't just a 1+1 power up. This was like exponential growth that they experienced. And then into Lucifero fight, the next fight that Asta does, he masters a perfect devil union, where Lucifero now has to face off against not just a 1+1 boost, but something much greater than what he was in previous union modes. Now, we could absolutely chalk this up to, well, he was training for, I don't know, a couple days with Noct, which isn't sufficient training, if you ask me, because he's the only one who was, going through the 50-50 training. Like, no one had ever done it before. And we could maybe say he picks things up really fast, which he does. He picked up Kyato's skill of dancing and not being able to be tracked as he was fighting Kyato, conversing with him about the magic. So we could definitely say that, a high learning curve for him could explain that away. But just the proximity to when he did that, versus when he faced off and defeated Nama and Lilith, is pretty close. And so is him defeating Zagrid with word magic. And I know the next question might be like, well, what about Lucifero? But he didn't make contact with Lucifero's core, which is something I don't think a lot of people were like really looking at. He never dealt an actual final blow. It was Adremelech who took the core, brought it to Lucius, and then the other core was in the underworld with his other half. So I would say that's why we have not seen anything like that. But to play devil's advocate in this case, let's say he does pick up some gravity magic from the downfall of Lucifero. What makes this really interesting is that this would maybe explain one of the more mysterious things that's happened to Asta currently. We don't really understand why Asta's in Hino, but we do understand that Lily used Beelzebub's spatial magic to yeet him somewhere that wasn't supposed to be Hino, or just erase him entirely. And I know there's a lot of speculation that makes sense that Beelzebub could have easily just tampered with the magic, sent him somewhere that would benefit the plan the best, I guess. But say he does have, like Liebe did get some amount of gravity magic in this, right? And I know this sounds crazy, but if he's trapped within this like spatial magic, gravity warps space. So in turn, if Liebe could warp this space, at the very last second, so no one sees that he's still alive, or Asta and him are still alive, then that would be really beneficial. And it bides them some time to get a bit stronger so Lucius doesn't mess up the plan that the devils have. Like, I've thought a lot about this, you guys. I have a lot of just like little ins and outs for certain things that have happened that support the theory that I'm giving to you guys. But, I'm not above myself to admit that this could easily just be written off by some other explainable instances in the series. But yeah. I'm glad someone brought up Zagrid, though. Spirit. Who's your favorite black... Oh, Yami. By far, Yami. Without a question, it's Yami. If I had to give a second place, it's going to... it's probably going to Magna. And then third, I really like Yosuga. I know we just met him. We know nothing about him. And the parts that we do know, he's kind of a fucking jerk. A selfish jerk at that. I think he'd be my third for right now. It's those guys. And then I think Klaus is at a close fourth. I really like him. And yeah, who are you guys' favorite? Yeah, list your favorite characters so I can talk crap about them. And then Shelly, I have a feeling that Liebe was Yuno, who got reborn as a devil, but Yuno's still alive. So I'm not sure why you're saying that. Like he's more than just alive. Like he's got two souls. I think Lucius found out that Ost is alive and he's Lick's son. So he sends Libe into the past to become Lucifero's host to kill. Okay, so you're saying that Libe is Lick's son, and we know that one of his sons died over 500 years ago. But then why would he be getting sent into the past if all of this is 500 some years ago? To be Yeah, I'm confused. Spirit, hypothetically speaking, if there is a twist villain that isn't Osteroth, do you think there's potential for the final villain to be Osta's father? It's an anime thing that that fathers do come out to be bad. I don't know, and I don't think Osteroth is going to be a villain at all. Really, I think Osteroth was Julius. And we talked about actual in-lore merit as far as Buddhists are concerned, and how it's involved in reincarnation. I think that the body Lucius is using is Osteroth's, and this is part of the pact that, with his soul magic, would liberate Osteroth, and Osteroth would willingly give his power to Lucius in exchange for a human body, so that he may be free of, of his demonic condition. And we talked about this from almost the conception of this channel. But Osteroth's realm of hell is particularly special because a lot of things happen there. A lot of things have to happen there because a mage descending down the left-hand path of magic has to be ready for the next realm coming up, which is where they die. Again, but like they really die. And so his realm in particular talks about how these beings are kind to a fault, and that they spread themselves so thin that they break. So you can definitely take kindness way too far. You can have good intentions in mind for something, like say, okay, this is something that happened kind of recently. So I work in a school with other teachers, and I was out lunch with some of my friends or co-workers, and one of my co-workers is pregnant, and she had just found out, well, not just found out, but like had done all the testing and stuff, and she said she wanted to keep the sex a surprise. And then her mail got mixed in with like I think it was like their parents' mail or something, and they had found out that like while reading the mail to my coworker, like, because she was, I don't want to put all the business out there, but she was very concerned that the baby might not be like your typical, might have like some abnormalities and stuff like that, and so she didn't want to read it herself, and so the parents ended up reading it to her. Were not aware that she wanted to wait, or I think forgot that she wanted to wait for the sex, and they said the sex, and so like they weren't maliciously trying to do that, but now she knows the sex of the baby, and she didn't want to, but life goes on. But she was a little upset, right? I think stuff like that ends up happening, so that's what makes Osteroth's realm special, and Osteroth comes from the deity Astarte, who is the goddess of justice, right? So everything that is fair and good, and justice doesn't always favor the good, though, which could be part of the thing. We also do know from Astarte that she willingly descended into hell, and even this hell, before the left-hand path of magic was really adopted, full on described what the left hand does up until the point where it gets to the realm that Osteroth rules. In this realm, Astarte has a sister named Anat, who is the goddess of was it curses directly? Because I don't want to give you guys wrong information, but I think it was something like that. Yeah. Consort was Baal. Then he's Hanat, Athena. Okay, so this should be it. Okay, so here we go. So yeah, they have blended the two, Astarte and Anat, together. So if Anat's not the sister, it is another aspect of Astarte. Let me see. I want to know what Anat specifically did. Because as far as I remember, she had a lot to do with curses. Which is why I said another name for Megicula could be Anat. This is a lot. Or, wait, I didn't go through the entire... Not Ashtart, Kitesh. Both brides of Set, who's also demonic. I don't think I read this, and I would need to check the source on this. Oh, no. Oh, okay, I thought this was Cornelius Agrippa. Yeah, I would need to check the source on this. So I don't think I've heard of Isaac Cornelius, or this book. But it sounds like they've given her kind of the Lilith treatment, where Lilith is in 3 parts as well. Lilith, Nama, and Aisha Zenonim. Let's keep it going, though. Should see at the very top what she does. Like, what is this? Okay. It's in a Tef crown. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing it, you guys. Let me go back. While I'm struggling, I'll read some more comments. Maybe. What? What is happening? Okay. Right. Okay. I'm gonna see if I... Hopefully I... Oops. Jacobs to go. Hopefully I can find it. Okay. She's the goddess of death. There we go. Yeah. Anyway, so in that same realm, Astarte descends to that realm, and her sister, or the other aspect of herself, is in that realm already ruling. And I think it might have been there that Astarte, does she stay? I think she stays, or she keeps going down into the underworld, because part of the things that you have to do as you're descending, that you'll see in the story of Astarte, is that as you descend, you take off another article of clothing, until you're fully nude in front of, in this case, Anat. And then at this point, you're nude to get prepared for the death that you're about to experience. So you might, and this is the same realm that you end up opening your third eye in, so go figure. So once you get past the realm of Anat, or Osteroth in this case, then you have to be prepared to lose your bipartite self, right? The second part of you, to come into what is known as your true self, which is the symbol that Xenon ends up having on his forehead, which is why I made it a really big deal when that happened, because that is what the Adamus Aether is. It's the black diamond, and that's what Beelzebub gives you, and that's pretty much your success sign, that you made it out of your death and was able to be reborn into your true self. So it makes it really special about that. So, but ultimately I don't think Astaroth will be a villain of any type in the story. Okay. Shelley, you think that Astaroth, or Julius is Astaroth, and he was responsible for the Spade Kingdom massacre to implant Lick's son inside of Uno's body after he spared Lick's son. So, okay. I agree with the first part. I do think Julius is Astaroth. But Lick's son has always been inside of Uno. And oh, you're saying Astaroth is responsible for putting, like, pretty much the reason for the Spade Grimoire? Because that wouldn't be true, right? Because we just saw last chapter or 2 chapters ago that there was a Uno that only had one Grimoire, and he was the Spade Prince. He belonged in the Spade. So the Grimoire that he shouldn't have is the one that belonged to Lick's son, which was always in him, and that's what Lick's son said. He's like, I've always been with you. And you have a power of your own. Christina said, I'm not sure if you've covered this, but I don't think Asta is from the present time. I've not said that. I know Broku said that. I know a lot of people have said that. It could definitely be true. There's definitely some inconsistencies with, Asta and all that. And if we do end up connecting Hungry Joker to the series, none of those people have magic either. So, but they're able to use magic items if they are part of the chosen few that are able to. Welcome to the channel, by the way. Don't think I've seen. I have not seen you here. I don't think. Spirit, your favorite characters are Yami, Yuno, Asta. You got the whole damn squad in here. Ryu, Noct, Luck, Mario, Vanessa, Noelle. You'd say Fuego, but Tabata's been kind of doing him dirty, not giving him Spirit Dive and Insane Sage by now. Exactly. Fuego used to be so cool to me, but he sucks, dude. I'm not mad at your list at all, really. Yeah, I got nothing. It's a good list. Narrow, I don't know. She made Tabata look bad. She conveniently got bad things, and Tetia survived with one other. Do you think that dog? So I don't think I've forgiven her for that yet. Do I see any major characters dying? Without being no. Most no. Yami. Say Yami. Well, Julius, Lucius. If they get taken over, these are the people that are looking. Yeah, we trust everything. If this kind of lay low and play them as far as politics go before really messing with humans, it's gonna look bad. It's gonna look very, very bad. But there's of course more to that theory towards the end. I do want you guys to still watch the video I'm gonna put out. It's into something much more, and I'll explain how they come back from that as well. Yeah. Shelley, if Asta is Astaroth, I can imagine Astaroth had been tortured and on by Morris under Lucius's influence in the original timeline, but probably he wanted to restart to forget. I doubt that happened. It didn't seem that Morris knew anything about devils before he met the tribe. Yeah. Crow, I've got to get back to work. Have a nice stream. Thank you, Crow. I'm glad. I don't think I've seen you on a stream ever, but good to see you there. Okay. While I'm scrolling through some of the stuff that I've been posting lately, I just want to make sure that this is not the stuff I've been posting lately. I do want to make sure, because I said it last stream too, that I'd talk about Leo and my crazy headcanon theory that I have for him. You guys, if you didn't read Kaiju number 8, good lord, read that today. Because, man, this is such a cool design. So cool. Especially compared to, like, originally what number 1 looked like. That looks so cool. This was the best chapter. Narumi went off. Anyway. Look at it, though. Look at it. What if a devil came out and looked like that? That would be cool. Okay. So, for Leo. When Noelle got her spear, I was like, interesting. If there's room for Leviathan to find a host with Noelle. And I kind of wanted to wait to say this because I'm sure that Leviathan has a different dude, I'm so confused. My chat is all over the place. I don't know if you guys see that too. But anyway, I'm not completely sure if Leviathan has the same, like, just water magic. I'm pretty sure it has more. It has a different attribute than just water. And I'm just waiting on that confirmation. But I was thinking, like, well, she got Leviathan. What if Leo gets Behemoth? Or Behemoth, however you want to say it. I say Behemoth. What if he gets it, right? And one of the reasons for this is because there's a panel that happened a very long time ago. And it amounted to absolutely nothing at the time. And I want to show you. Usually when you look up his name, it comes up. And I know that there are people going to be like, oh, that's obviously not what you're saying it is. Like, clearly it's something else. Oh, my goodness. I forgot who they were fighting. Shit, what was it? No. Oh, wait. Fuegolean wakes up. Let's see if I can get it from here. It's chapter 171, so chapter 170 is when this happens. Or is it 172? It's 170. Let's see if I can find it on here first real quick. Doesn't look like I can, so I'll head over to TCB, I think. Oh no, I doubt they'd have it this far back. Was it this chapter? Damn it. I really need to figure out where this happened. Maybe they'll have it in the wiki. Because I need the visual to be able to explain to you guys my thought. And why that could be the case here. What in the world, you guys? Shouldn't be this hard. Okay, we're not even in that. Oh, I should say chapter, huh? Maybe it wasn't 170. Or, no, it is 170. Yeah, it is. Was it in one of those? Oh, it wasn't there. Yeah, it's got to be this shot. Oh, no. Block. I'm not a robot. But you are? Like, what are you talking about? Okay, this seems sketchy. I'm not going to do that side. Damn. Why can't I find... Oh, I can use this site. Unless there's a picture of it here. Sorry, guys. I should be way more organized, but you know me. I'm not. So, it was here. Yeah, it had to be. Had to be here. They're fighting the air elf thing. Don't do this. There are no hot local singles in my area, you guys. They're not. They're not here. Just psych, I'm right here. Okay. So, does it happen in this chapter? Am I just lost? No. Right here. He says, seems like I'm getting something, right? And he doesn't get anything. He falls on his face. And then Fuegoleon comes, right? With the salamander and all that stuff. Then we have this beast behind him, right? And we all were like, oh, that's clearly a lion because Vermilions, the lion brigade, whatever they're called, right? What if that's Behemoth? And like Behemoth has been on to him for a while, right? Like he might choose him. I don't know why he wouldn't have chosen them then. But remember that Behemoth and Leviathan are strictly apocalyptic creatures. So even if this would have been Behemoth, it wouldn't have come out because it was nowhere near the apocalypse, right? But now that we're here and Leo's been gone, who knows? Like, who's to say that Leo might not get something like this? Because there has to be something more special happening with this character where Tabata has hidden him. Like, there's been every reason to show him recently, and he's not. And no one's asked the question, though. So it's a little bit strange, and then I kept looking at this picture, and you see around the eyes, there's an even like this part. It looks like Charmy's wolf in that respect, and you see that it goes beyond the words there, too. And it has these below its eyes, and it's got that on this side as well. And it just seems like it's demonic, and you know that Tabata doesn't use black for just any character or whatever. Like, this is supposed to be some kind of omen to me. And as far as I'm supposed to recognize, as far as Tabata draws, aesthetically, it looks like it could be demonic based. And it could be Behemoth, the other part of the apocalypse. Which would be just, again, really interesting. May or may not happen, but something I have definitely considered since Noel has gotten Leviathan. But I think it'd be pretty cool. I don't know what you guys think about that, but it'd be pretty crazy. And the summoning thing, by the way. Really odd. We could dive into the shapes and the people that are there and all that, blah, blah, blah. But the weirdest thing happening here is that this is just here. This was already there, like, as far as we know. Because Dorothy was like, yeah, we can just cast Doors of Destiny. Remember, we got that room with the whole, like, what is that, like, diamond rock setup portal? We have a casual Stargate in the Witch's Forest that no one talked about. Why? Because they're hiding it. Like, this is not supposed to be something benevolent. Like, I don't know. I just don't feel good about this. And I think I brought it up in the post before this. Dorothy was the one who was talking about this stuff happening. Now, granted, it's not the same room. We can't really see the writing on the floor here, so I can't even use that. But to be fair, we've never seen a devil summoning like this. Yeah, we've seen, like, the Faust do it. It's nothing like this, though. And if anything, he would be inside of this circle, too. But he's not. Or she. Who knows? It could be a she. Hell, this could be the witch that cursed Charlotte, for all we know. The hands are similar. It seems like there's a big body under that robe. I don't know. But look, we've never seen that before. And all of a sudden, this spell is just supposed to exist. And it extracts the things that we want to meet most, or the person that we want to meet most. Makes no sense. Like, I'm just not liking the way things are going here. But I think I've talked about almost everything else, unless there's anything you guys wanted me to talk about specifically. I think I've got just about everything here that I needed to say. What was this? Oh. I think this post is worth looking at if you haven't done so already. Like, narratively speaking, Lucius is not being set up as the final villain, because we do see him at his lowest, or close to at least. When he's in a wheelchair, he looks sick. you know, and obviously forgotten about by his own people in the kingdom of the Spade Kingdom, because it looks like he's living on the outskirts. So he's not being acknowledged, but he's now living the very thing that someone in that position would, you know, be dreaming about, where he now rises above everyone else from his wheelchair, literally rising in his candela, going from the ground, looking up at the Spade Kingdom castle, and then looking down on everything, right? With all the power in the world, where he was vastly limited before all of this. You know, it just seems like he's living out the dream that he set out for himself, and that it just screams not final villain to me, is what it does. Spirit Fuego used to be him. Why does Tabata always diss him now? Even Mario still gets respect when she's defeated. Yeah, it's crazy, and I think it's just because like Mario goes down fighting every time. Like losing is not an option. Even when like she was about to get that 4 elf combination spell, like she wasn't like she was out cold, but she was still standing. Like it's just not an option for her. Where Fuego, like even though he said staying weak isn't an option, he's staying pretty stagnant to me. So he also hasn't developed any new spells or anything like that. Every time you look at him, he's doing the same thing. But I always want to give Tabata like credit. Like I want to kind of ride it through. Maybe there's something, a reason why this is happening, you know, and we just don't know about it yet, you know. So I want to exercise a bit of patience, but Fuego does suck. Like he legit sucks. So. Spirits about I forgot all about Leo. Like I hope he didn't. Like he's got to give this kid something, and especially with Mario going down the way she is, I don't know, man. Dr. Frost, Jack the Goat, back at it again. Gonna try and catch this live, but I'm at work at the moment. Might lose wife. No problem, dude. Glad you came by. But yeah, this was a pretty cool chapter, you guys. I'm waiting to see another Singularity. This was the best spell. Like, literally the best spell. It just needed to be on a bigger scale. And he was also, granted, holding back enough so that he wouldn't outright kill Yami. So, there is that. You know, so I'm assuming we'll see it from Lucius at one point or another. Those are those 4 videos, you guys. You guys, watch them. I know it's a lot. Some of those are long, but they're good, and it seems like they're coming true. Oh yeah, Asta's friends. We talked about that. Copying Naruto always. Yeah, I think we covered everything we needed to, at least. What was this one about again? Okay. Oh yeah, this was an interesting thread. Kind of came to me like randomly throughout the day. Since we're hitting the end of the stream, I think I'll give you guys a sneak peek into something I'm working on here. And I kind of hinted at it. And I didn't say I would talk about it in this video because I had no intention on doing so. But very few people get to the end of my thing, so I will talk about it with you guys briefly. That's not it. What was I doing? Here we go. So, if you guys are not aware of this person, St. Thomas Aquinas, and this book is called Summa Theologiae. I don't know how to say it. But anyway, St. Thomas Aquinas is the backbone of Black Clover, if you did not know. And the reason behind this is because St. Thomas Aquinas is the person that Tabata got his the idea of the leaves from. where the leaves mean love, hope, and something else. What does he say? Let's see if we can find it. Love, hope. And was it? It wasn't justice, was it? Oh my God, we got to get out of the indexes, the longest index ever. And if you guys haven't seen, this is 9,000 pages long, and I've been going through a lot of it. Oh my goodness. Love, hope. Someone help me out. Is it charity? I think it might be charity. Faith. Okay, cool. Thank you. Good Lord. You see it's still loading. This is what I've been going through, you guys. Jesus Christ. Okay. So, love, hope, and faith. This is all about Thomas Aquinas. Now, I'm going to tell you why this particular source is really cool. And it's because that Thomas Aquinas here does something I have never seen anyone else do. And this is because he takes the idea, but what he does with every idea that he has is he argues with himself, essentially. So he'll have the premise of his argument where, okay, let's see. This is one of them. Whether the love of charity stops at God or extends to our neighbor. So then he creates like, well, if that's the case, here's objection 1, objection 2, 3, and then the contrary. And then he answers it. And then sometimes he'll have objections. He does it here too. He has objections to his answer, and then he'll have another answer after all of that stuff. So it's really cool that he does this because he really covers all of his bases. But one of the things he talks about here is despair. And despair, I believe, is mentioned 90 something times or 200 something times. Let's see, the number's still going 200 and something times. Maybe it's 293. I feel like that number's like stuck in my head for some reason as that's loading. 204 times. Okay. Nope, it's still going. Okay. So he has a lot to say about despair. I'm putting together stuff that he talks about despair. And it's one of the things that I go over in, I think it was the tweet that I was just looking at there. It is. And he does talk about how despair comes from the withdrawal of belief. You have to believe in something higher than you, bigger than you, in order to even hit despair. And then he talks about sins, right? And how they stem from what are called the principal passions. And the principal passions start with things like love, hope. Oh, here we go. Love is attached to hatred. Desire and aversion are attached. Hope is attached to despair. Right? So we're talking about these leaves and then their stark contrasts. I think this was a typo because they say fifth, but they don't talk about the fifth. But the sixth and last is joy, which is connected to sadness. And from all of this, he talks about how despair is actually the original sin. So we'll kind of talk about that in probably another stream, or maybe a video, but I'll probably post a bit more about it on Twitter for sure, in bits and pieces before I really dive into it. As you can see, there's a lot that I have to consider and read through, like good Lord in heaven. But this is the source right here, and it's really interesting. This whole thing has been a journey. But one last little peek into something. Was it here that he mentioned this? Oh no. Oh, okay. No, not gratitude. Come on. Maybe I'm just getting it wrong. Uh-oh. Maybe that was somewhere else. I'm going to go over one thing with you guys. If I can get my shit together. That is... Don't I have it in a different tab? Grace. Had to do with grace. Sanctifying grace. There we go. Which is called gratia. Oh, that's where I went wrong. I want to look at it how Thomas Aquinas was putting it. Gratia. Oh, it's still not there. Where did I find it? Oh, that's strange. Okay. Oh, that's really strange. It should be in there. Anyway, so Thomas Aquinas does mention something about something that's called gratia gratis data, right? And this is sanctifying grace. And I'm going to read to you what sanctifying grace is real quick. So sanctifying grace is a habitual gift, a stable and supernatural disposition that perfects the soul itself to enable it to live with God, to act by his love. Habitual grace, the permanent disposition to live and act in God, in keeping with God's call, is distinguished from actual graces which refer to God's interventions, whether at the beginning of conversion or in the course of the work of sanctification. The infusion of sanctifying grace, says the Church, transforms a sinner into a holy child of God. And in this way, a person participates in the divine sonship of Jesus Christ and receives the indwelling of Holy Spirit. Sanctifying grace remains permanently in the soul as long as one does not reject one's adopted sonship by committing a mortal sin, which severs one's friendship with God. Less serious sins, venial sin, although they allow charity to subsist, they offend and wound it. However, God is infinitely merciful, and sanctifying grace can always be restored to the patient heart, normatively in the sacrament of reconciliation or the sacrament of penance. So, what we're getting here is that grace is a gift that can be given to someone in which perfects the soul, right? And we have 4 characters with the last name Zogratis. Now, this is about to be a thread, so you guys will get the scoop on this first. But earlier, last year, I think it was, I had taken the name Zogratis and studied it. You split it into 2, you get Zo and Gratis, which end up meaning so free. Then I find this, and it almost describes what Lucius does with everyone that he's touched to become a paladin, is that he is extending grace. He is God in this case. And he is willing them the power to be able to work alongside him and through him with the power that he graces them with, right? So what we're seeing is sanctifying grace. And how we see with Lily, it never left her. Like, she's just not in his grasp. But the grace seems to still be there. And it was the same with Euro as well. So there's a little bit more to this that I want you guys to wait on and look forward to. I think this is a really cool subject. But, I mean, this kind of just goes back to how Thomas Aquinas seems to be, another part of the foundation that Tabata has laid for his series, which I think is really cool because Thomas Aquinas is kind of underrated, to be honest. Now that I've really got to look at him, should have a lot more mentions when it comes to some of the things that have been taken into esoteric philosophies and even, just basic Christian and Catholic theology. So, really cool. But I think we're about done here. I did say in the beginning the stream wouldn't be too long, and look at us. We are how many hours in? Let's see. 2 hours and 30 minutes. That's usually around the time. But anyway, you guys, I would like to thank you guys for all tuning in. I hope this was interesting. I will be putting out that video talking about Libe. It might have some new and interesting bits and pieces of information I did not give you guys, so I do recommend still watching it when it comes out. But yeah, in short, I'm really hoping that Tabata uses the Order of the Fly, because it's been my name for so long. But if he doesn't use it, I do think it'll be the 7 Deadly Sins, where Astaroth will not be a villain whatsoever. So, we'll see. But again, thank you guys for tuning in. You guys stay safe, stay out the way. This has been Jack Oates to go. You either know or you don't.